She was just a street girl, but her dance reached the heart of a boy bound to a wheelchair. The millionaire, the child's father, saw in that gesture something no fortune could buy. Together, the three embarked on a journey marked by loss, hope, and redemption. And on the final stage, before everyone, the impossible became real and the miracle happened. If this story interests you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. We'll continue. I promise this will be the best story you'll hear in your life. The afternoon sun bathed Blossom Square Park in golden hues as Lily, a 10-year-old girl, danced barefoot on the hot concrete. Her agile feet drew circles in the air, ignoring the cracks in the ground and the gaze of the few passers-by. She wore a faded skirt and a blouse twice the size of her thin body, but moved as if she were covered in silk. A few meters away, sitting on a worn blanket, Grandma Ruth extended her wrinkled hand to passers-by, never taking her eyes off her great-granddaughter. Lily had never had ballet lessons. Her knowledge came from videos she watched through the electronics, store window downtown, and the rare times she managed to peek through the window of the dance school in the wealthy neighborhood. Even so, there was something in her movements that transcended formal learning, a freedom that belongs only to those who dance to survive their own existence. That Thursday, a black car parked across the street. Inside, Ryan, a 12-year-old boy, watched the improvised dance with eyes that seemed to awaken from a long sleep. For 8 months, since the accident that confined him to a wheelchair, Ryan had closed himself in a silence that no specialist had been able to break. The best doctors, the most expensive therapies, nothing had sparked any reaction in the boy. Until that moment. Michael Morgan, a renowned businessman in the construction industry, and Ryan's father, interrupted his call when he noticed something unusual in the rearview mirror. A smile. Small, almost imperceptible, but undeniably a smile on his son's lips. He followed the boy's gaze and found the source of that miracle, a girl twirling in the park. "Wait a moment," Michael said on the phone. "I'll call you back later." He hung up and turned to his son. "Want to go over there, Ryan?" The boy didn't respond verbally, but his eyes, fixed on the improvised dancer, said everything. Michael signaled to Frank, the driver, who promptly got out to prepare the wheelchair. Carefully, they transported Ryan out of the vehicle. Lily didn't interrupt her dance when she noticed their approach. On the contrary, she intensified her movements as if she were presenting a private show. Her skinny arms drew arabesques in the air while her body spun, with a precision that defied her apparent fragility. "Hello?" said Michael, uncertain about how to start that conversation. Grandma Ruth immediately became alert, pulling the blanket closer to herself as if protecting a treasure. Years of life on the streets had taught the elderly woman that well-dressed strangers rarely brought good news. Lily, however, stopped her dance and smiled at Ryan. "Do you like to dance?" she asked, addressing the boy in the wheelchair directly, completely ignoring the adult. Ryan didn't answer, but his eyes shone in a way Michael hadn't seen in a long time. Lily approached the chair and, with surprising naturalness, began to move her hands in front of the boy, as if inviting him to a silent dance. "You can dance with your hands," she explained. "Dance doesn't have to be just with your feet." To Michael's amazement, Ryan raised his hands. The movement was hesitant, almost imperceptible, but it was there. His fingers began to mimic the girl's gestures, creating an improvised choreography in the air. Grandma Ruth watched the scene with a mixture of distrust and tenderness. She knew well that gleam in her great-granddaughter's eyes. It was the same one her late granddaughter, Lily's mother, had when she talked about her dreams of becoming a ballerina. Dreams interrupted by her sudden disappearance 5 years ago, leaving behind only her young daughter and a mystery that was never solved. Michael discreetly took his phone from his pocket and began filming the moment. It wasn't a planned action, but instinctive, the desire to capture a miracle that was happening before his eyes. His son, whom doctors had said might never communicate normally again, was interacting with a stranger. For almost 20 minutes, Lily and Ryan danced together in that park, she twirling around the wheelchair, he moving his hands to the rhythm of music that only the two of them seemed to hear. When the girl finally grew tired, she stopped, made a theatrical bow, and smiled at her improvised dance partner. "You dance very well with your hands," she said sincerely. Michael, too emotional to speak, took from his pocket an envelope he had prepared for a business meeting. Inside, a considerable amount of money. He approached Grandma Ruth and, with respect, offered the envelope. "Please accept this, your great-granddaughter." She did, something today that no doctor has been able to do in months. The elderly woman hesitated, pride fighting against need. Finally, she accepted the envelope with a silent nod. Not for herself, but for Lily, who needed food, clothes, and perhaps a different future than her own. "Can we come back tomorrow?" asked Michael, looking at Ryan, who still kept his eyes fixed on Lily. "The park is public," answered Grandma Ruth, her voice revealing years of caution. "We're here every day." What none of them knew was that Sarah, Michael's personal assistant, who was waiting in the back seat of the car, had recorded the entire scene and, moved by what she considered an inspiring story, shared the video on her social media that very night. The next morning, as Lily and Grandma Ruth organized their few possessions for another day in the park, the video had already been shared thousands of times. Comments like, "The dance that heals" and "The miracle of the street ballerina" flooded the platforms. Local journalists began asking about the identity of the little dancer and the smiling boy. The world was about to enter Lily and Grandma Ruth's life, bringing both opportunities and dangers they could never have imagined. For Ryan and Michael, that casual encounter opened doors they believed to be permanently closed. And somewhere in the city, a former dance teacher watched the viral video with tears in her eyes, recognizing in the barefoot girl the same rare gift she herself had possessed decades ago. That night, as Grandma Ruth carefully counted the money from the envelope, hiding it inside the only pillow they owned, Lily fell asleep, dreaming of ballet slippers and a boy who danced with his hands. Fate had crossed their paths for a reason, and the consequences of that encounter were just beginning to unfold. The video going viral transformed Blossom Square Park into a meeting point for curious onlookers. Some brought donations, others just wanted to photograph the miraculous ballerina, as Lily came to be called. Grandma Ruth, suspicious of this sudden attention, insisted they stay away from cameras and strangers, offering dubious opportunities. "People only care when they can gain something," the elderly woman muttered while storing the coins received that day. "Tomorrow they'll find another story to distract themselves." What Grandma Ruth didn't foresee was the envy. Other homeless people, who previously ignored them, began demanding a share of the donations. A particularly aggressive group followed them to the overpass where they usually slept. Under the protection of darkness, they stole the money hidden in the pillow and destroyed the few belongings they had. Lily tried to hold on to her only doll, a gift from her mother, before she disappeared. But the memento was torn from her hands and shattered before her eyes. With nothing but the clothes on their backs, they wandered through the early morning hours. Grandma Ruth, already weakened by a persistent cough, tried to stay strong for Lily. The girl, for the first time, didn't dance. She walked with her head down, holding her great-grandmother's hand like someone clinging to a lifeline. At dawn, they arrived at an unfamiliar park, far from their usual territory. Grandma Ruth, exhausted, sat on a bench and closed her eyes for a moment. Her breathing came in painful wheezes that frightened Lily. "Grandma, are you okay?" The elderly woman tried to answer, but a coughing fit prevented her. Lily looked around, desperate, not knowing what to do. That's when she noticed a middle-aged woman watching them attentively from the window of a small building. Hannah Wilson had been the principal ballerina at the City Theatre in her youth. An accident prematurely ended her career at 30, leaving her with a slight limp and deep bitterness. Since then, she had lived as a recluse in her modest apartment, supporting herself with private piano lessons that rarely brought her joy. That morning, something had made her wake up earlier than usual. She was preparing her tea when she saw the girl and the elderly woman through the window. She immediately recognized Lily from the viral video. She observed the child's anguish over her sick grandmother, and before she could rationalize her decision, was already on the street. "Do you need help?" asked Hannah, approaching cautiously. Lily, normally open and confident, hesitated. Recent experiences had taught harsh lessons about trusting strangers. Grandma Ruth, however, had no choice. Her body gave in, and she slid from the bench, being caught by Hannah before hitting the ground. "Please help my grandma," begged Lily, fear overcoming. Distrust. Hannah called a taxi, and against all her self-preservation instincts, took them to her apartment. She installed Grandma Ruth in her own bed and improvised a mattress on the living room floor for Lily. She called Dr. Thomas, a doctor, friend from her theater days who still maintained some affection for her, despite her years of seclusion. Dr. Thomas arrived an hour later, carrying his bag and an expression of surprise at finding Hannah caring for two strangers. "Pneumonia," he diagnosed after examining Grandma Ruth. "We need antibiotics immediately." Hannah bit her lip, making mental calculations. Her financial situation was precarious, but she couldn't simply abandon these two to their fate. "I'll pay for the medications," she finally decided. While the doctor prescribed the treatment, Lily timidly explored the small apartment. She stopped, in front of a wall covered with old photographs. In all of them, a young Hannah twirled on illuminated stages, wearing tutus and princess crowns. The girl was hypnotized. "Was that you?" she asked when Hannah returned to the living room. "In another life," replied the former ballerina with a sad smile. Dr. Thomas observed the interaction between the two, and for the first time in years, saw a gleam in Hannah's eyes that he thought was lost forever. After prescribing the medications and leaving detailed instructions, he pulled his friend into the hallway. "You know who they are, don't you?" Hannah nodded. "The girl from the viral video and her grandmother. You also know that you can't simply adopt them like this, without any legal formality." "I'm not adopting anyone," Hannah defended herself. "I'm just helping." Dr. Thomas sighed, knowing his friend's stubbornness well. "I'll bring the medicine this afternoon, and Hannah, be careful. You're getting involved in something bigger than it seems." In the days that followed, as Grandma Ruth slowly recovered, Lily and Hannah developed a curious routine. In the morning, the girl watched fascinated as the former ballerina gave piano lessons. In the afternoon, when the students left, Hannah began teaching Lily some basic ballet movements. The small apartment had no adequate space for dancing, so Hannah moved the furniture in the living room, creating an improvised area. There was no barre, no mirror, no proper slippers, but there was passion. Lily absorbed each instruction with a thirst that reminded Hannah of her own youth. Arm position. Yes, softer. The movement comes from within, Lily. Dance isn't in the legs, it's in the soul. To Hannah's surprise, the girl possessed a natural talent. Her movements, though technically imperfect, carried a rare expressiveness even among professionals. There was something almost supernatural in the way Lily interpreted music, as if her small, malnourished body harbored memories of lives dedicated to dance. Grandma Ruth, still bedridden, observed these sessions with a mixture of pride and apprehension. She saw in Lily the reflection of her disappeared granddaughter, Laura, who had also dreamed of the stage, and she feared that the same tragic fate would repeat itself. "She has her mother's gift," she commented one afternoon when Hannah came, "to change her medications." Hannah sat on the edge of the bed. What happened to her mother? The elderly woman's eyes filled with contained tears. Laura had the same talent. She got a scholarship to study ballet as a teenager, but we had to sell our apartment to pay the expenses. When she started to stand out, she met a man. Rich, powerful. He promised her the world. After Lily was born, he simply disappeared. And then one day, Laura also vanished. No explanation, no trace. She left only a note saying she would return soon. That was 5 years ago. Hannah felt a lump in her throat. Stories like that were common in the dance world, where talented young women often became easy prey for powerful men. "Do you think this man—" "I don't know," interrupted Grandma Ruth. "The police don't care about the disappearance of a single mother from the outskirts. I searched for months until the money ran out and we lost our home. Since then, I've had only Lily and the hope that someday Laura will return." The next day, Dr. Thomas brought a proposal that would change the course of that unlikely family. I talked to a journalist friend. He's interested in your story and wants to publish a report. Nothing sensationalist, just an honest account that might attract help. Grandma Ruth immediately refused. We've already seen what happens when our story becomes public. We lost everything. This time will be different, assured the doctor. John is a serious professional. And besides, you're no longer on the streets. You have an address, you have Hannah's protection. The former ballerina, who until then had remained silent, made a decision. What? If we got something more concrete than just donations? Lily needs to study. She needs to develop her talent. Hannah had spent the previous night repeatedly watching the viral video of Lily dancing in the park. She compared those intuitive movements with what she had witnessed in recent days and reached a conclusion. That girl deserved more than improvised lessons in a cramped room. I know the director of the municipal ballet school. Rebecca was my colleague at the theater. If she sees Lily dance, I'm sure she'll offer a full scholarship. John's report came out in the Sunday edition of the newspaper, an entire page dedicated to Lily's story, with photos of the girl in improvised ballet positions in Hannah's small apartment. The text was sensitive, avoiding sensationalism, focusing on the child's innate talent and the circumstances that led her to the streets with her great-grandmother. The last part mentioned the viral video and made a subtle appeal for help. Not handouts, but opportunities. The effect was immediate. On Monday, Rebecca Fontaine, director of the municipal ballet school, appeared personally at Hannah's apartment. The two former colleagues hadn't seen each other in years, and their reunion was marked by a lingering embrace and restrained tears. "You disappeared from the map, Hannah," said Rebecca, while accepting a cup of tea. "After the accident, we all tried to find you." Hannah averted her gaze, still uncomfortable with mentions of the episode that ended her career. "I needed time. I ended up getting lost in it." Rebecca nodded, understanding. Then she turned to Lily, who was timidly observing from the kitchen doorway. "Is this the little ballerina who's stirring up the city?" Lily stepped forward, her hands nervously intertwined in front of her body. She wore a borrowed t-shirt from Hannah and leggings donated by a neighbor. Simple clothes, but clean, very different from the rags she wore in the park. "Come show me what you can do," invited Rebecca with a gentle smile. Hannah put classical music on her old record player. The first chords of Swan Lake filled the small room, and Lily closed her eyes for a moment, absorbing the melody. Then, as if responding to an internal call, she began to dance. There was no formal technique in her movements. Just 3 weeks of improvised lessons with Hannah couldn't make up for years of training. But there was something more valuable: soul. Each gesture, each expression of Lily's told a story of overcoming, of beauty found in the most unlikely places. Her small and still fragile body moved with a grace that contradicted her lack of training. When the music ended, Lily remained in the final pose, eyes closed, arms extended like wings ready to fly. Rebecca was speechless. In her 30 years directing the school, she had rarely witnessed such a natural gift. "She has the spark," she murmured to Hannah. "That inexplicable thing that differentiates a good ballerina from a true artist." Grandma. Ruth, watching from the bedroom door, leaning on an improvised cane, had misty eyes. For a moment it wasn't Lily she saw dancing, but Laura, her missing granddaughter. "She starts tomorrow," decided Rebecca. "Full scholarship, uniform, slippers, everything included. And you, Hannah, would you like to come back to teaching? We need a teacher for the beginners." Hannah felt her heart race. Return to the ballet world. After so many years running from it, the idea was frightening and at the same time strangely liberating. "I'll think about it," she answered honestly. On the other side of town, in the Morgan mansion, Ryan was also experiencing transformations. Since the encounter with Lily, in the park, something had changed in the boy. The drawings that were once dark and chaotic now showed dancing figures, always the same girl in a pink dress twirling in circles. Melissa, the physical therapist, noticed the change and took advantage of the renewed interest to intensify the exercises. Ryan, previously resistant to any therapy, now tried harder, as if each small progress brought him closer to the dancer who had awakened something inside him. He asked about the girl, Melissa reported to Michael during a session. It was his first complete sentence in months. Michael, who accompanied his son in every consultation since the accident, felt a wave of emotion he could barely contain. "What did you answer?" "That we could look for her. I suggested taking Ryan to the park where you saw her the first time. Perhaps the familiar environment would help in his emotional recovery." Michael nodded, thoughtful. He had looked for Lily in the days following the encounter, but she and her grandmother had disappeared from the park. Local people mentioned an incident with other homeless people, but no one knew where they had gone. The video that Sarah published without authorization had become a bigger problem than he imagined, not only because of the unwanted exposure of Ryan, but also because of the consequences for the little dancer. "I'll do better," decided Michael. "I'll find her." He hired a private investigator who, in less than 2 days, located Lily through the newspaper report. Hannah Wilson's address was easily obtained, as well as information about the scholarship at the municipal ballet school. The next day, Michael accompanied Ryan and Melissa to the park near the dance school. Strategically, they chose the time when classes ended. Ryan, in his wheelchair, anxiously observed each child who left the imposing historic building. Lily appeared last, accompanied by Hannah. She wore a new uniform, black leotard, pink tights, and a small jacket over her shoulders. She carried a small backpack with the school logo and, for the first time in years, wore shoes that properly fit her size. She looked like a different child, clean, well-fed, with her dark hair tied in a loose bun that imitated her more experienced classmates. It was Lily who saw them first. Her face lit up with a smile of recognition, and she pulled Hannah by the hand, pointing toward the boy in the wheelchair. "It's him, Hannah. The boy who dances with his hands." Hannah, confused, let herself be guided by the girl's excitement. As they approached, she recognized Michael Morgan from newspapers and television, one of the most influential businessmen in the country. The Kami, former ballerina, hesitated, suddenly conscious of her simple appearance and the social abyss that separated them. Lily, however, was not intimidated. She approached Ryan with the same naturalness as their first encounter. "You came back." "I looked for you in the park, but we had to leave." Ryan looked at the girl with moving intensity. His lips trembled, forming words that came out in a whisper. "You dance better now." Melissa and Michael exchanged surprised looks. 2 complete sentences in a single day, an extraordinary advance for someone who had spent months in almost absolute silence. "I'm really learning now," Lily responded with pride. "I have a teacher and everything. Want to see what I learned today?" Without waiting for an answer, Lily put her backpack on the ground and positioned herself. She performed a simple sequence of basic movements, ending with an exaggerated curtsy. That drew a smile from Ryan. What happened next caught everyone by surprise. Ryan, moved by an inexplicable impulse, pushed the wheels of his chair, moving by himself for the first time since the accident. He approached Lily with determination in his eyes and, when he was close enough, extended his hands. "Teach me?" Lily took Ryan's hands and began to guide them in circular movements, as she had done in the park. Hannah watched the scene with misty eyes, recognizing something that transcended dance, a connection that healed invisible wounds. Ellen, the housekeeper who discreetly accompanied the family, recorded the moment with her cell phone. Tears flowed freely down her face as she filmed Ryan interacting voluntarily, something the doctors had said could take years to happen, if it happened at all. "He's moving the chair by himself," she whispered to Michael, showing him the video. "And he's talking." Michael observed the scene with a mixture of emotions, gratitude, hope, and renewed determination. That girl had accomplished in minutes what months of expensive therapies hadn't achieved. There was something special about her, something his son needed. He approached Hannah, who maintained a respectful distance. "Ms. Wilson, I'm Michael Morgan. I'd like to talk about an important matter." Hannah straightened her posture, instinctively adopting the dignified attitude of her days as a principal ballerina. "About Lily?" Michael nodded. about how we can help each other. My son, as you can see, there's something between them. A connection I can't explain, but that's bringing Ryan back." Hannah looked at the children, now sitting on the grass with their heads close together, sharing some secret that made them both smile. "Lily has also been through a lot," she said cautiously. "We're just beginning to build a stable routine." Michael took a deep breath before making the proposal he had elaborated during the previous night. "I have a guest house on my property, 3 bedrooms, completely furnished, with an independent entrance. It's been empty for years. I'd like to offer it to you, Lily and Grandma Ruth, no cost, for as long as you need." Hannah frowned, suspicious. "Why?" "Because my son smiled today. Because he spoke. Because he moved his chair by himself," Michael answered sincerely. "And also because I owe you. That video, it caused problems, didn't it? My assistant shouldn't have published it without authorization." Hannah hesitated. The offer was tempting, a suitable place for Grandma Ruth to fully recover, space for Lily to practice, security. But it also meant dependence, and Hannah had learned the hard price of depending on others. "I don't want charity," she finally said. "It's not charity," replied Michael. "It's an exchange. We need you too. The school where Ryan studies has an arts program but lacks a teacher for adaptive dance, someone who understands the special needs of children like him." Hannah felt her heart race. 2 job offers as a dance teacher, on the same day after years away from the stage. The universe seemed to be conspiring to bring her back to the world she both loved and feared. "I need to talk to Grandma Ruth," she replied cautiously. "She's Lily's legal guardian." Michael nodded, respecting the decision. "Of course. Here's my card. Call when you decide, no matter the time." While the adults talked, Lily was teaching Ryan a simple sequence of hand movements. The boy watched her with adoration, repeating each gesture with intense concentration. The decision wasn't easy. Grandma Ruth, marked by decades of disillusionment, initially resisted the idea of moving to the Morgan property. Only after a long conversation with Hannah and a visit to the guest house did the elderly woman agree. More for Lily's future than for her own comfort. "I don't trust rich men offering favors," she muttered, while inspecting the impeccably furnished rooms. "They always want something in return." Hannah understood the distrust. The world had been cruel to both of them in different ways. Grandma Ruth, betrayed by poverty and her granddaughter's disappearance. Hannah, betrayed by her own body when her career was at its peak. "If it doesn't work out, we can go back to my apartment," the former ballerina assured her. "But think about the opportunities for Lily. Her own room, a garden to play, and proximity to the school." What really convinced Grandma Ruth, however, was observing Lily and Ryan together during a preliminary visit. The way the boy lit up in the little dancer's presence, and how Lily naturally assumed the role of teacher, demonstrated a genuine connection that transcended social classes and life experiences. The move happened on a sunny Saturday morning. The three's possessions fit in few boxes: donated clothes, some of Hannah's books, the worn blanket that had accompanied Grandma Ruth and Lily on their nights on the streets. Michael provided everything else they might need, always with a respectful discretion that was beginning to win the elderly woman's trust. The guest house was a 2-story cottage, separated from the main mansion by a beautiful garden. On the ground floor, a spacious living room, complete kitchen, and a bedroom adapted for Grandma Ruth, avoiding the need for her to climb stairs. On the upper floor, 2 comfortable bedrooms for Hannah and Lily, with a small balcony offering her view of an artificial lake. "It looks like a palace," Lily whispered as she entered her room, decorated in soft shades of blue and white. A small desk, a bookshelf with children's books, and to her absolute delight, a full-length mirror fixed to the wall, an essential item for any ballerina in training. Hannah began her work at Ryan's school the following week. The proposal was innovative: create an adaptive dance program for children with reduced mobility. At first, only Ryan participated in the sessions, but soon other parents learned of the initiative and enrolled their children. "Dance isn't just about feet," Hannah explained in her first group class. "It's about expression, about telling stories with the body, whatever its condition." She adapted classical ballet exercises to be performed sitting down, developed choreographies that integrated wheelchairs as artistic elements, not as limitations. Lily became her informal assistant, demonstrating movements and inspiring the other students with her contagious energy. To everyone's surprise, Ryan progressed rapidly. His hands, once weak and trembling, gained strength and precision. His verbal communication improved considerably, and he began to participate in other school activities he had previously rejected. Michael, who initially maintained a professional distance from Hannah and Grandma Ruth, began to attend the classes to watch his son's progress. With time, he became a regular presence at Sunday dinners in the guest house, where Grandma Ruth, recalling skills from her youth, prepared traditional dishes that delighted everyone. "I never thought I'd see Ryan like this again," he commented one night, watching his son playing dominoes with Lily on the porch. "You've brought my boy back to life." The comment, made with absolute sincerity, melted Grandma Ruth's last resistance. The elderly woman, who now tended the garden with renewed vigor, began to share stories of her life. Her youth in the countryside, the sacrifices to raise her granddaughter alone after her daughter's departure, and the pain of Laura's disappearance. "Sometimes I think I'll never know what happened to her," she confessed one afternoon while she and Michael planted tulips. "It's the not knowing that corrodes the soul." The businessman, touched by the elderly woman's pain, made a silent promise to use his resources to investigate Laura's disappearance. He discreetly hired the best private investigators, determined to bring some comfort to the woman who had, involuntarily, saved his son. Meanwhile, Lily flourished. Her progress at the municipal ballet school impressed even the most skeptical. Rebecca, the director, commented during a meeting with Hannah that in 40 years of career, she had never witnessed such rapid evolution. "She has the gift and the determination," Hannah replied with pride, "a rare combination." 6 months after moving to the guest house, the school announced its annual show. Lily was chosen for a small solo, an honor rarely granted to first-year students. The news spread quickly, reaching the ears of journalists who still remembered the street ballerina from the viral video. The story gained new momentum in the media. From street to stage, Lily's journey. Reports highlighted not only her talent, but also the transformation in Ryan's life, the son of businessman Michael Morgan, after meeting her. That's when the problems began. A group of entertainment executives approached Michael with a proposal to turn the story into a reality show. Dance and Redemption would showcase Lily and Ryan's routine, their classes, challenges, and triumphs, with special appearances by celebrities. The format would include public voting and substantial prizes. "It would be inspiring for millions of people," argued the executive producer, "and the exposure would open doors for Lily's future in the artistic world." Michael, pressured by sponsors and shareholders who saw the initiative as an excellent marketing opportunity, brought the proposal for discussion with Hannah and Grandma Ruth. The response was unanimous. "No," declared Grandma Ruth with a firmness that surprised even herself. "Lily and Ryan are children, not circus attractions." Hannah agreed. "We've already seen what uncontrolled exposure caused before. They need stability, not cameras invading every moment of their lives." Michael, aligned with the decision, refused the proposal. The retaliation was immediate. Subtly negative reports began to emerge, questioning the true motives behind taking in Lily and Grandma Ruth. Insinuations that Hannah was taking advantage of the situation to return to the dance world, or that Michael was buying the girls' friendship to benefit his son. The situation worsened when an anonymous complaint to Child Protective Services questioned Lily's legal guardianship. Grandma Ruth, although she was the girl's great-grandmother, had never formalized the situation. After Laura's disappearance, social investigators appeared at the guest house, asking questions and evaluating the living conditions. Hannah, who had already discreetly initiated the process to become Lily's legal guardian in case something happened to Grandma Ruth, faced a tense hearing with social workers. Her reclusive life after the accident, the years of treatment for depression, and the sudden move to the Morgan property were presented as unstable behavior. It was at this critical moment that Grandma Ruth surprised everyone. In the hearing room, the 78-year-old woman stood up with a dignity that silenced even the most skeptical of investigators. "I lost my daughter to poverty," she began, her voice firm despite her age. "I lost my granddaughter to the unknown. I lost my home, my dignity, almost lost my life. The only thing I didn't lose was my love for Lily, and it was that love that kept me alive on the coldest nights, in the most desperate situations." She paused, looking directly at the judge. "Now, for the first time in years, I have hope. Lily has a roof, food, education, and above all, she's happy. Not because of luxuries or material comforts, but because she can finally be a child. She can dance without fear. She can dream without restrictions." Her eyes, which had witnessed decades of hardship, filled with a fierce determination. If anyone here thinks they can offer her more than what she has now, a stable home, people who love her, the chance to develop her gift, then let them be the first to extend their hand. But don't come with papers and regulations to take away from Lily the only family she's ever known. The emotional testimony, combined with positive reports from the school and doctors who monitored Lily's development, closed the case. The judge not only dismissed the complaints, but expedited the process of formalizing the shared guardianship between Grandma Ruth and Hannah. Michael, deeply touched by the experience, made a decision that would change not only their lives but those of many other children. He would convert an old warehouse of his company into a cultural and rehabilitation center where art and therapy would walk together. Hannah would be the artistic director, developing a program that would combine dance, music, and other artistic expressions as tools for physical and emotional recovery. New Steps Cultural Center, he announced during a special dinner to celebrate the dismissal of the case. A place where talents can flourish, regardless of physical limitations or social circumstances. 6 months later, the center opened its doors. Children from different realities, some in wheelchairs, others from shelters, all united by art, filled the specially adapted rooms. Lily, now 11 years old and progressing rapidly in her training as a ballerina, became a junior assistant, helping in classes for beginners. Ryan, whose progress continued to surprise doctors, took the leadership of an adapted percussion group, discovering in music another form of expression. His wheelchair, once a symbol of limitation, had transformed into a mobile stage for his achievements. For the official inauguration, Hannah prepared a special presentation, a duet between Lily and Ryan that symbolized all the journey traveled since that first meeting in the park. The choreography, delicately adapted to Ryan's possibilities, narrated a story of meeting, separation, and reunion. The improvised theater in the cultural center was packed. Journalists, authorities, families of students, all anxiously waited. Michael, seated in the first row next to Grandma Ruth, could barely contain his emotion. The lights dimmed. Lily entered first, wearing a simple white tutu. She performed a series of movements that represented her life before the encounter, twirling freely but alone. Ryan entered next, his wheelchair decorated with silver ribbons that reflected the soft lighting. The music, specially composed for the occasion, intensified when the two approached each other at the center of the stage. Lily danced around Ryan, while he executed precise movements with arms and hands, creating a visual harmony that moved because of its synchronicity and symbolic charge. At the climactic moment, the unexpected happened. Ryan, who had progressed in physical therapy more than anyone imagined, activated a discrete mechanism that locked the wheels of his chair. Supporting himself on arms strengthened by months of exercises, he slowly stood up. 1, 2 trembling steps toward Lily. The audience held their breath. Michael grabbed Grandma Ruth's hand, who let out a contained sob. Hannah in the wings covered her mouth with her hands, tears flowing freely. Lily, without showing surprise, for they had secretly rehearsed for weeks, extended her hands to Ryan. Together they took 3 more synchronized steps before he, exhausted by the effort, was gently supported by her in an embrace that sealed not only the end of the performance, but also the celebration of a miracle built with persistence, love, and art. The ovation that followed lasted endless minutes. There wasn't a dry eye in the theatre. Journalists, momentarily forgetting professional objectivity, applauded standing. The video of the presentation, shared with authorization and respect, became a symbol of the work developed at the New Steps Cultural Center. In the following months, the center expanded its activities. New teachers were hired, new artistic modalities incorporated. Families from across the country began to seek that space where limitations were seen as challenges, not as insurmountable obstacles. On Ryan's 13th birthday, a special celebration was organized in the property's garden. Everyone was present: school friends, colleagues from the cultural center, teachers who had accompanied his journey. Ryan, who now could walk short distances with the help of special crutches, received the guests with a radiant smile. Grandma Ruth, observing the scene from the porch, smiled serenely. Her hair, now completely white, framed a face where wrinkles told stories of pain, but also of redemption. Beside her, Hannah adjusted a crown of flowers on Lily's head, preparing her for a small surprise performance for the birthday boy. Michael approached, offering a cup of tea to the elderly woman. Thoughtful, Grandma Ruth? She accepted the drink with a nod of thanks. Thinking about how life comes full circle, Michael, who would have thought that afternoon in the park would bring us here? He followed her gaze, contemplating the garden where dozens of children played, laughed, lived, some in wheelchairs, others with different needs, all included, all celebrated in their uniqueness. You know what moves me the most? Continued the elderly woman. Seeing that the miracle wasn't just physical, Ryan didn't just learn to take a few steps. He, Lily, all these children, they rediscovered joy, connection. That for me is the real miracle. Michael nodded, too emotional to respond. In silence, they watched Lily run toward Ryan, holding the flower crown that she now placed on her friend's head, drawing laughter from the guests. The dance that had begun unpretentiously in a forgotten park had transformed not just two lives, but an entire world around them. And it would continue transforming, one step, one gesture, one dream at a time. The end, dear listeners. We hope that Lily and Ryan's story has touched your hearts. To continue this journey of emotions, we've prepared a special playlist with equally inspiring stories. Find it here, clicking on the left side of the screen. If this narrative brought a smile to your face or a tear to your eyes, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like the video. Every day we bring unique stories that explore the complexity and beauty of human life. Share in the comments which moment of this story moved you the most.